Back here, the regulars Talk Sports Radio Extra 90.5. This is a Thursday edition, so don't get too confused. It is Matty Bowler in studio.
Good morning. Woo!
Only 3 days late. That's okay.
Fired up.
Whatever. Thanks for showing up finally.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I can't believe we got a long weekend. Is this the long weekend that just sort of snuck up on us?
It is. It May 2-4 always sneaks up on me, though. Also, with the weather we've had, I still kind of am like, is it November when I wake up, or is it...
It's not raining today.
Like, if you have a campfire this weekend and you're like the guitar player at the campfire, do you have to wear those mitts with the fingers cut out?
No, that's not this weekend, I don't think. I think you're okay. Let me check the weather. Last I saw it was looking pretty good for the long weekend.
Awesome.
Sunny today, increasing clouds this afternoon, high 16. Maybe some showers later tonight, low 8. Showers ending tomorrow morning. Then clearing, with high 19 as you kick off your long weekend. Some clouds on Saturday, high 15. So the weather has changed a little bit. We do have showers on the way on Sunday and Monday, apparently. Initially, it was going to be a mix of sun and cloud. Maybe that'll change again. We'll wait and see. Hopefully, it'll be a good long weekend. This guy, always looking forward to a good long weekend. He's our good friend, Brian Goldfinger from Goldfinger Personal Injury Law. Oh, yeah, we have an intro for him.
Goldfinger, he's the man with the Midas touch.
Do you expect me to talk? No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die.
Brian Goldfinger from Goldfinger Personal Injury Law. As always, he likes to pop in after a Raptors loss. Let's go back in time, because I'm pretty sure someone matching your description came in here just before the playoffs started and said you were calling a sweep in the first round. How'd that work out for you?
It was a gentleman's sweep. Raps in 5. There you go. Yeah, gentleman's sweep.
Gotta give him a chance.
Come on.
It's the first thing I had to do was throw you under the bus, because the first thing we said after the Raptors lost, like, Goldfinger called the sweep.
Lost.
Yeah, there we go.
But it's a gentleman's sweep. I was close.
You also promised to come in with some Embiid tears.
I did. I brought my jar of Embiid tears as well. Yeah.
Was that the most dramatic thing you saw with Joel Embiid bawling after the game was over?
It was the biggest shot in Raptors history, no doubt, and it set the course, spiraling for Philadelphia. Let's look at their perspective now, because they are in a position whereby they have to make a determination on Jimmy Butler's future.
Yep.
He's a max player. Tobias Harris, the same thing. JJ Redick, you can't sign all three guys. Or do you roll it all back? You just don't know. And Coach Brett Brown, who's actually coming back. And then you you saw what you got from Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid in that series. Joel Embiid's health is just brutal.
Yeah.
He had a knee problem. He had he had a respiratory problem. You don't know. And then for the Raptors, if they lose that series, Kawhi Leonard is gone easily.
Yeah.
And you don't know what to do. Now the fact that he hit that shot and we're now in the conference finals, it brings Kawhi, it deepens the attachment between Kawhi and Toronto. And we keep playing basketball in May, and the Raptors are still relevant in the middle of May, and I love that.
But what are we going to do? Because I saw, the Raptors last night, other than Kyle Lowry and Kawhi Leonard, nobody could have hit sand if they fell off a camel.
Yeah.
That was only in the fourth quarter, in fairness. They had a really good first three quarters.
They sure did.
The Bucks are, I think, a deeper team and a better team. But the Raptors are still there playing, and I'm just thinking about the future of the Raps in terms of whether or not Kawhi will stay or go. And had they lost to Philadelphia or the Magic, I know Kawhi would have been gone.
For sure.
Now the fact that they're playing in the conference finals, it just increases that conversation of perhaps Kawhi staying.
I want to bring up a report from Bleacher Report that surfaced online a few days ago. I want to get your take on that, but we'll chat about that in a few seconds here. But I want to go back to that buzzer beater shot, and heard Kawhi Leonard speak a couple days after as they're getting set for the next round against Milwaukee, and everyone wants to, do you know how big this shot was and how much of a flavor it had right across Canada? He goes, yeah, no, I don't know. I don't know nothing.
He has zero charisma. I've never seen a superstar with such less charisma.
But that's why he is ice cold when it comes time to make that shot.
Right.
Because you don't want a guy that's super up then super down. You want a guy whose pulse is level, and that's why he can make that last shot without the nerves. He wants the ball.
He's constantly on beta blockers.
Yeah. Well, the guys on TV made a good point last night too, because there was something that was missed that he felt the referees missed.
Yeah.
He went over. He said his piece. He walked away. He went on with his business. He went over. Said he didn't make a big to-do about it. I mean, the Bucks could have and they did completely lose their mind at the end of the half because there was a foul that they felt that was missed.
Right.
But later in the game, the third quarter, Kawhi had an issue.
Right.
He walked over, called him a few four-letter words, and then walked away and then went about his business.
Yeah, that's the sort of guy he is. And you have to ask yourself, remember when the Raptors traded Kawhi for DeMar? A lot of people were up in arms. Would the Raptors be in the Eastern Conference Finals right now if they had DeMar? The answer is probably no.
No.
Exactly. So it just vindicates the big trade that Masai made in the offseason.
Now, do you think they have to win the Eastern Conference Final for Kawhi to stay? Number one. And number two, if they don't win the NBA Finals, would Kawhi stay if they could maybe get another piece in, another big name that Kawhi could kind of...
It's always been my take that if the Raptors have a good showing in the Eastern Conference Finals, that there's a very strong likelihood he'll stick around. It's very hard for any player who's committed to winning to leave a winning situation when you know you could add a few more pieces here or there. If the Raps fizzle out and get swept or gentlemen swept, I think it's still up there that he's off to LA or somewhere else. But if they have a very strong showing, I think there's a good chance he sticks around.
You know what? And last night, if that's a telltale sign of what this series is going to look like, I'm excited for game number 2 already. You know what? And as I said to Maddie off the top here, I watched this game, and I don't watch a lot of full basketball games. I kind of tune in, tune out. This one I was pretty in tune with.
You're engaged.
The Raptors had a really sizable lead. The Milwaukee Bucks started to bring it back. They got in with a couple points. All of a sudden, Milwaukee couldn't, hit water if they fell out of a boat. And then the Raptors picked that lead back up again. Milwaukee started to bring it back again. This game went back and forth all night long until the fourth quarter, where the Raptors just didn't really have any energy left.
I think the Raptors will make a few adjustments, and one of the big ones you'll see is in the first round, the Raptors were facing Nikola Vucevic for the big center on the Magic. Second round, the big center was Joel Embiid. The third round, the center is Brook Lopez, and he's more a perimeter center. So Marc Gasol's role in terms of his his paint defense is a bit minimized and neutralized. So I see it more as a series for Serge Ibaka to thrive. And what you see from the Bucks in terms of their defensive scheme is they really clog the paint. Kawhi was like playing 1-on-3.
Yeah.
So you'll have a lot of shots, not only from 3, but from the mid-range, which is where Ibaka is very good. A big piece that's missing for the Raptors is a guy like OG Anunoby, who had that emergency appendectomy. It actually went bad, and he got an infection. So I think he's going to be out the whole series. But he would be a great piece to put on a guy like Brook Lopez, because the moment he goes to the post, that's the moment you win. You want him posting up. You want the offense going through him in the post. So I could see them wanting to put on a smaller piece on a guy like Brook.
A lot of people talking about Lowry's success last night, 7 of 9 outside the arc, and now fantastic, 30 points. One thing though, I kind of like Kawhi's short game yesterday. I say short game because how many times we watch him go in, as you mentioned, 1-on-3. 2 guys he had to divert around or deke out in order to be able to make a basket, and he did that a number of times last night. I thought he just looked spectacular.
Kawhi or Kyle?
Kawhi.
Kyle.
Kawhi. Kawhi Leonard.
Kawhi Leonard looked.
Yeah.
He looked good. I think he can look better.
But he looked tired in the fourth.
He looked tired in the fourth. You can't blame the guy.
Nope.
He played heavy minutes and heavy defensive load. Kyle looked fantastic. It's a shame we wasted such an effort from Kyle Lowry last night. Yeah.
Lowry did look good though. Finally, I'm saying finally, he played a good defensive game over the last couple series.
Yeah.
But when you're looking for offensive output, you just weren't seeing it out of him, and then all of a sudden, last game against the 76ers, okay, now he's got a hand injury. How's that going to affect him? Didn't seem to affect him too much last night.
No, he had a solid game, and he needs to do it again. They all need to do it again if they're going to get to the next round in advance. Milwaukee's going to be a really, really tough out. The Raptors are in tough.
Yeah, TNT. So I was going to say TNT guys gave the Raptors no love at all.
Yeah, they never do though.
That's fine. I mean,
they never do.
Why? But
it's always Toronto against the world.
That's okay.
Shaq and
it doesn't matter. We're still playing here in May. The Lakers aren't playing in May, right? But the Raptors are. I'll take it.
Now, I got a question about Nick Nurse's coaching in that a lot of people, I follow the game on Twitter as I'm watching it, and people are surprised about Lopez's game. Now, if you've been watching the Raptors all year, Lopez has been a Raptor killer in the regular season. Should they not have seen him coming and done something about him earlier?
I think they'll adjust in game 2. I've never seen Brook Lopez play that strong in my life, and I saw him play
twice this year. He did well.
I saw him play at Stanford live. Okay, so when he was at Stanford, he was always a standout at Stanford. I saw him play live, and he was great. but his game has changed so much, and I've never seen him hit in that second half at such a high efficiency clip from 3, and he had 4 blocks as well. He had an exceptional game. If he plays like that, the Raptors will not win. And if Brook Lopez plays like that, he's a Hall of Fame player. And I should also mention that Brook Lopez's contract's only something like $2 million or $2.5 million bucks, whereas the Raptors are paying Serge Ibaka and Marc Gasol $50 million. So it should just give you an example of where Brook Lopez is coming from this season and his supernova effect.
Certainly going to be looking for a lot of different cogs in order to be able to fit this wheel, because seeing Milwaukee does move on right now, it's looking pretty good for Golden State out west, unless the Trailblazers can turn it around. But I think Golden State was pretty on par.
They're good. Golden State wants to prove that they're just not all Kevin Durant.
Yeah.
But if Portland has an opportunity, or any team has an opportunity to kind of get these guys, it's when Boogie Cousins is out and Kevin Durant is out, and you have a sense of general malaise that the Warriors had for the regular season and part of the playoffs. Remember, it took them 6 games to beat the Clippers in the opening round, and nobody expected that. This is a chance to get them if they can be gotten at all.
Is this where Curry's career starts to turn left a little bit, do you think?
Turn left, you mean for the worse?
Yeah.
I think he's the best shooter of all time that the NBA's ever seen.
Better than Larry Bird?
Better than Larry Bird.
Over
yes.
the backboard into the hoop, Larry Bird?
Yes, I
Wow.
do. There
Strong
you go.
words.
Strong words. I know, but better than Larry Legend. They're going to be they're a tough out, but if there's a time to get them, it's now. They're injured.
Yeah. One thing I want to bring up with you, and this you talked about Anunoby. He was one of a number of players that were named in regards to a possible trade rumor from Bleacher Report with New Orleans. And when it came to Anthony Davis, of course, Anunoby, Siakam, Ibaka, and a first-round pick in 2021 to go to New Orleans to pick up Anthony Davis. Now, again, for this deal to work, according to Bleacher Report, Kawhi would need to stay.
Oh, is this a future deal?
Or something that they would kind of been floating rumors around.
Do you think Davis would leave, though, now that they got the first-round pick in the lottery? They're
Well,
getting
everybody's saying
Zion
that doesn't seem
Williamson.
to make a difference, right? So I don't know.
I don't know. I think Davis wants to play with Zion.
No, I think Davis wants out, because I think New Orleans has shown that they're just incompetent in terms of building a team around him, because they've never done that. And New Orleans isn't necessarily... It's not necessarily a basketball market, but I think he's just had such a bad experience there. He wants to close that chapter of his life and move on to the next. And the fact that Zion comes in doesn't really change things, because he played with a dynamic center in Boogie Williams, and that didn't really do much either. So I just think he wants out in a fresh start.
But ultimately, what they talk about in this report from Bleacher Report is that in order for any of this to even come to fruition, Kawhi needs to stay.
Well, if Kawhi stays and they can pull the trigger on that deal, I say do it, because at the end of the day, the NBA is a star-driven league, and if you have 2 stars in Kawhi and Anthony Davis on your team, you just fill in the blanks and plug in the roster and pick up a guy like Brook Lopez off the veteran waiver wire for $2 million bucks, and you hope those guys step up to the plate.
Yeah, I think if you've got Kawhi Leonard and you're talking to his agent this offseason, I think with how they've done this postseason, if they can convince Kawhi Leonard that they're going to get that one more piece that's going to make the Raps a super team, I think he definitely stays.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I heard you say earlier too, if the Raptors fizzle out either by sweep or in 5,
Right.
it's entirely likely that Kawhi does not stay.
Yeah. No, they have to go out on the blades of glory. You know what I mean? If they're going to go out, they have to go out swinging. They can't just fizzle out.
Because if Kawhi leaves, are we basically left with the Blue Jays in basketball form?
I don't want to be left with Blue Jays at all. No.
You mean Toronto's still got a baseball team?
Exactly.
I mean, because is there much hope for this team to be competitive next year?
As long as Masai Ujiri is steering the ship, there's hope.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he's a fantastic executive. He's always been putting them in a position to win.
Would you rather have Shapiro at the helm in baseball? Exactly. No. As long as Masai is there, we're in good hands.
I'm still on the Christmas card list with the greatest general manager in baseball history, Alex Anthopoulos. Right, Double A. Although he did sell the entire farm in order to,
he did
get nowhere. So unfortunately, that's how it plays out. So what are you hoping for? What are you expecting from game number 2?
Game 2, some adjustments. It wouldn't surprise me if they lost game 2 as well.
Really?
Just on the home court. Milwaukee's a tough team. I think it'll be the team that controls the home court that'll ultimately prevail. Milwaukee's a strong team. They were only probably playing at about 70%. Remember, they hadn't played basketball in a good 2 weeks.
Well, I asked Jordan about this yesterday too. I said, unlike hockey, where we kind of differentiate back and forth on, whether you sweep and then you get a nice, week off to prepare for the next round. Sometimes that could be to your detriment. For basketball, do you think that makes a difference, having that extended period of time off in between series?
I think you want to be in rhythm, and that rhythm's very important. That's why the Raptors, I think, played so well in the first 3 quarters and ran out of gas. They were in rhythm. Milwaukee was kind of just getting their sea legs back. I think Milwaukee will have their sea legs back. They're a very deep team. It wouldn't surprise me if they lost. It wouldn't surprise me if they squeaked one out. I don't know. It's just too unpredictable.
But there's no way Milwaukee has another game where they shoot that poorly off the top. I don't think the Raptors are going to get that again.
No, but I also don't think that Brooke Lopez is going to go supernova and look like a Hall of Famer again either. So
well, I agree with you that
see.
they're going to make adjustments, but what did bother me was that they didn't have an answer for him in Game 1, and I felt that the way Lopez played against the Raptors in the regular season, they would have done more pregame with the strategy in order to neutralize him.
Yeah.
I said, I don't think Lopez is that, he's amazing. He's not a Hall of Famer. I agree with you, but he did play really well against the Raps when they played them this year, and I would have figured as a coach, you spend a lot of time breaking down game tape. I don't know why they didn't see this coming.
I also think that the mantra of the Raptors is just don't let Giannis, beat you. Make the other guys beat you. And if it's going to be other guys stepping up like Brooke Lopez, then so be it. They deserve to win.
Yep.
You see how hard it is for these kind of alternative pieces to jump up and play well in a big game, and that's what both teams will need if they're going to be successful.
Do you think last night was enough to keep the peripheral Raptors fans in tune for a while?
Of course, as long as they're still playing, and today is what? Today's May 16th. They're still playing in mid-May. Raptors fans will be there. I mean, they're 4 wins away from playing for an NBA championship, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You keep playing for 4 wins.
And that's why I like to focus on, if they can stay with the ship that they sailed yesterday for 3 quarters,
Yeah.
if they can pull it in for 45 minutes, it'd be even better. But if they can stick it out and continue to play like they did for the first 3 quarters at least yesterday, I'm all in for game number 2.
There's hope. There's hope. 4 wins away from winning for the championship.
I do have a question about Kawhi's shot to end the last series. In the pantheon of Toronto sports, does that go up there with Joe Carter's home run? Does that go up there with Bill Barilko pulling the trigger, or the bat flip game?
Well, Joe Carter's home run won the World Series, so I think Joe Carter's home run is at the top of the pyramid.
Touch 'em all, baby.
Touch 'em all, baby. And then I think there's a debate between the two, between the bat flip, Bautista's bat flip, and the shot. Both shots have parallels. They both got Toronto into the semifinals, so to say. But Kawhi's shot, though, totally ended the game and ended the series in a 7th game. Whereas the bat flip, was that in a deciding game? I don't think so.
It was. I think it was.
Yeah,
Was it a deciding game? Oh,
Yeah,
so
it was.
I don't know.
It was.
It's a tough debate. I don't know. They might be on par with each
But
other.
the Rangers still had a chance to get back into it.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's why I think I might give the edge to Kawhi's shot, because there's no time left on the clock. And also for basketball, the way it went in, like the bat flip home run, that was a no-doubter, right?
Yeah.
It's gone.
Yeah.
Whereas Kawhi's shot bounced on the rim once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, and then somebody in the at the Scotiabank Center hit the magnet button on the ball and caused it to go in.
Well,
There you
it's
go.
funny. Statistically, I saw this on Bleacher Report as well. When a ball hits the front rim, I think it's statistically something like 70-some-odd% of those bounce back out towards the shooter. And for that to hit the front of the rim and actually bounce over, man.
So that's why I'll give the edge to the Kawhi shot, just because of those dynamics in that drama.
I love reading the tweets too, by the way. I had time to call my mom, wash my car.
Yeah.
Brian Goldfinger from Goldfinger Personal Injury. Let's get into the boring stuff too before we let you
Okay,
go.
great.
Your latest blog talking about claims and tricks and tactics for claimants with long-term disability in Ontario.
Yeah, my law firm gets a lot of calls every day from people with long-term disability claims and what to do, what to say to their adjuster over the phone, how to make a claim. So we just put out a helpful blog in terms of the right things to say, the right things to do, or the wrong things to say and do when dealing with an insurance company. Here's a very good tip that I tell people. Being disabled in a sense, is much like being pregnant in the sense that it's binary. Either you're pregnant or you're not. There's no being half pregnant. Disability is the same way. Either you're disabled or you're not. And being disabled means you're not working, you don't have a side job, you don't have a cash job. So a lot of people think that they could kind of pull the wool over an insurance company's eyes and not work at their normal 9-to-5 job, say wherever it is, and then work a cash job on the side and nobody will know. Insurance companies know and they'll find out. And that's very important. Or they might say, well, I'm not making nearly as much money at this cash job. Well, that still doesn't count in many cases for the purpose of the policy. So don't try to fool the insurance company in that way. They'll find you out. If you have a legitimate disability, you're only killing your claim because you're going to be seen as a liar, a cheater, or even worse, a fraudster. And you certainly don't want that.
However, an insurance company, though, people do have to realize they're not there to protect you and your interests. They're there to protect the company's interests. Am I correct on that?
You said it better than I can. You should work for me.
Done, buddy. I'll take that 6-figure salary with the corner office as a non-paralegal or member of the bar.
Brian Goldfinger from Goldfinger Personal Injury Law. Just curiosity for you as well as we get into the Lord's long weekend, the first unofficial long weekend of summer. Is this where business starts to pick up, as it were, or is there a time of year that gets a little more busy for you guys?
I wouldn't say busier, but we see a spike in a certain type of calls, and in around the long weekend, we see a spike in accidents involving alcohol, whether it is a slip and fall involving alcohol because you had one too many, or certainly a car accident involving alcohol. In addition to that, around the long weekend, we have more people out for jogs, bike rides, etc. So you have more pedestrians and cyclists on the road. So we get a lot more calls in terms of these motor vehicle and pedestrian or cycling accidents. Some involve alcohol, others don't. Just with greater volume on the roads, you got to be careful. Motorists and pedestrians alike. That means if you're crossing the street, please don't, pay attention, because even if you're in the right in terms of you're crossing with the green light, but your head's buried in the cell phone and somebody doesn't see you, they hit you, and you lose a leg, that leg's not growing back. Even though you're in the right, which is great, at the end of the day, no amount of money will ever make you whole. And that's what I try to tell people.
A lot of pedestrian incidents, pedestrians versus motor vehicle over the last little bit here in Peterborough, too.
And pedestrian always loses.
Correct. Always loses. Even if you're right in law, you're wrong in life, because nothing's getting you out of that wheelchair.
My friend's wife, I once watched her stop on an on-ramp from I think it was Bay Street to the Gardiner.
Right.
And there's the traffic lights there where you could turn right onto Lakeshore, but the on-ramp is before going up to the Gardiner. And we were walking across the crosswalk, and we were in the right, but a car came. It was kind of obviously not going to stop, and me, my wife, and my buddy all stopped. This lady actually turned around in the crosswalk and went, "Stop!" in front of the car. Now, the car actually stopped, but missed her by maybe 2 inches.
Yeah.
And I think that is the most ridiculous thing you can do, is when you're in the right to be that indignant, because you're ultimately responsibility for your own health.
Correct.
And, I mean, sometimes accidents do happen and you didn't see it and you couldn't foresee it coming. I understand that. But, man, be vigilant when you're out there.
Well, I'll tell you what, I was on downtown Toronto on Saturday for the ball game. That's a crazy, crazy place to be driving. Yeah. Crazy place to be driving. Very quickly before I let you go, too, the announcement by the Ford government last week in regards to the heightening of some speed limits in some.
In St. Catharines, a pilot project. Yeah. I think that's a good thing. Yeah. I don't think it's a bad thing, because the reality is people are driving well over 100. And I just think it's a modernization. I just think these reflect the realities of drivers and what these vehicles can do. Now, we'll see if it works. That's why it's a pilot project. We'll see what happens with it and what studies show, but I'm all for it.
But the thing was, our conversation, don't be raising your arms in celebration just yet.
Brian Goldfinger's my favorite new guest.
He ain't nobody. He just don't even listen to him. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Because our problem came down to, was everybody else is talking about, is right now, if you want to go on the 115s, 100, you can go 120, and they won't really touch you.
On the 115, but we're talking on the 400 series highways, right?
So if you go
there's a big difference.
If it's 110, you're okay with going about $130?
On what? On the 115?
No. So these pilot ones are going to go up to 110. So that's the 417 Ottawa, that's the QEW, and the 402.
Okay.
Are you still okay with giving that 20-kilometer?
I don't know.
allowance?
I think the police would have to kind of crack down on that 20-kilometer allowance. But if the speed limit is 110, I think that's an accurate kind of depiction of how we drive these days.
Yeah.
And I think if you're driving,
I'm okay with that.
If you're driving 100 on a 400 series highway, people are passing you left, right, and
You're an
center.
impediment.
Whether that's in the right lane and they shouldn't be passing on the right lane, or whether that's on the left lane. And it's actually slower drivers in many cases on these 400 series highways when there's no hazards in front of them that cause a lot of accidents, believe it or not. And I see it.
And I'm okay with that standpoint. I think, again, my issue is the allowance, the 20-kilometer allowance.
And if we go back to our conversation, my caveat was, because I've done a lot of driving in Europe, being married to a Swiss girl, is that yes, you can go 130 on the highway in Switzerland or France or Germany. Well, Germany, there's not even a speed limit. However, in Switzerland, France, Italy, yes, 130. But if you go more, you've got plus or minus 5 to 6 kilometers. If you are over that, the fine starts. They will pull you over, and the fines are all very punitive. So I think if you are going to raise the speed limit, you can't give that 20-kilometer buffer.
No.
Because you go up to, let's say the speed limit is 110, now you're going to say 130. I think
somebody doing 130 on Highway 400 going into Barrie in the wintertime keeps this guy employed. So that's
well, I mean, you also have to, it doesn't matter. Now, it doesn't matter what the speed limit is. You have to drive according to road conditions. And that 400 series highway coming
And
into
that's
Toronto,
the problem.
especially if you come just a little north of Canada's Wonderland, in between there and
Major
88,
Mac,
there's a lot of greasy roads, a lot of ice that happens, and if you're not driving according to road conditions, regardless of the speed limit, you're going to end up in an
That's
accident.
the problem. That's my problem is people still don't. I see it every day on the 115 driving in. That people don't understand how to slow it down.
But they're going to
drive
be
according to
idiots
conditions.
regardless of what you put as this posted speed limit. They're going to drive like idiots because they are idiots.
But
They probably couldn't spell cat
and
if
then
you
that's
spot
why
on
they
the C and the A.
and that's why they ruin it for everybody else.
Yes.
That's my take.
And that's why you should run for office.
Graham Elliott for premier.
I love it. Brian Goldfinger Personal Injury Law. Where can people find you, my friend?
Visit the website, goldfingerlaw.com, or you can certainly email me at Brian, Brian, at goldfingerlaw.com.
And that's where they can forward their Raptors playoff tickets to you in case they can't use them.
Sure.
There you go.
Drake, your courtside seats are needed.
Yeah.
Brian Goldfinger from Goldfinger Personal Injury Law.
You are a clever, resourceful man, Mr. Bond. Well, thank you. Perhaps too clever.
Pete's View coming up next here on Extra 9.5.